Welcome to the Cocktail Spirit from the Small Screen Network. I'm your host, Robert Hess. Now the drink I want to pair for you this time is a very special drink. It's called a Pisco Sour. Now this drink is especially special to me because I've got some special ingredients to use here. For example, we have this bottle of Pisco that was brought up just recently by a friend of mine from Peru, especially to make sure that I could use it in this show. Unfortunately, that means this is a Pisco you probably can't find here in the stores. Now, Pisco is made from two different places in South America. Both Peru and Chile make Pisco. Now currently, both of them are kind of in a little bit of a debate as to who really created Pisco. The Peruvians say they did, the Chileans say they did, and I think the judge is still out on that, although I'm sure if you talk to either one of those countries, they'll make sure they tell you the judge isn't out and they got proof. Myself, if I had to weigh in on the matter, I'd say that Pisco is Peruvian, mostly because anytime I have what I think is a really good Pisco, I get that from Peru rather than Chile. So when you're seeing Pisco in the store, prefer the Peruvian ones over the Chilean. However, I'll do a caveat there and let you know that currently here in Washington State, there's only one Peruvian Pisco that's available in Washington State liquor stores, and it's worse than anything out there. And even my friend from Peru, when he's up here taking a look at it, he didn't even recognize the bottle. He took a taste of it and says, I'm going back home and I'm telling our Pisco Society, whatever, that's trying to manage all this sort of stuff, to get this stuff off the market. It's absolutely horrid. I also have some actual Pisco Sour glasses I'll be using, as well as some Peruvian bitters that my friend from Peru brought up for me as well. Now originally, this cocktail was made with Angostura bitters, and this is simply the Peruvians' way of creating their own bitters to use in this cocktail. The recipe is fairly simple. It's basically 3 parts Pisco, 1 part simple syrup, 1 part lime juice. So let's get started. First, we'll start off with the 3 parts of the Pisco. So since I've got a slightly large glass here, I'm going to use 2 ounces of Pisco. Now to get the proper 3:1 ratio on this, I'm going to use just slightly less than 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. And the lime juice can also add a bit of confusion to this matter. The reason is we have 2 different fruit possibilities, and you'll see both of these used in the recipe for a Pisco. If you're actually looking at a recipe from South America, they'll say lemons, but what they're actually using is what we call limes, because in Peru, they call this a lemon and they call this a lime. It's really confusing. What confuses even more, I was just talking to my friend the other day, and he was asking me, he says, okay, so between the 2 of these, which one do you eat? And I said, what do you mean? You don't eat either one of these. They're both extremely sour. Essentially, they're almost about as sour as each other. He says, no. Down in Peru, we use the lemons as the sour ingredient, and we eat the limes. These taste just like kind of a slightly sour orange. So I can only assume that their limes that they have down there are slightly different than our lemons that we have up here. So the correct ingredient for a Pisco Sour is what we call limes and what they call lemons. So here's my 3/4 ounce of lime juice. And then to that add the exact same amount, or just shy of 3/4 ounce of simple syrup. A 3:1 ratio. You'll see other ratios in other books, but this is the ratio that a friend of mine insists is the right one to use, and I find that it works quite well. To this, we then add a full egg white. We add that to the drink. Now, just like I did in an earlier episode, since I really want this egg to foam up, I'm going to shake it without ice. By shaking without ice, it allows the egg white to form an emulsion with the other ingredients and get a much richer foam on it than it would otherwise. If I was smart, I'd have a bar back and I'm doing the shaking right now. That's probably enough. Now we add the ice. And this time we're shaking to chill the drink down. We strain into our glass. It forms a nice frothy head on the top. And this is where the bitters come in. Rather than being used in the drink, they're actually an aromatic that's on the top of the drink. So we just add a couple dashes onto the top. If you want, you can take a straw, and I'm not too good at art, but you can do some fancy curlicue motions to take and try to form some interesting patterns. And there we have the Pisco Sour.